Sure. Yeah. See you tomorrow.
That'd be embarrassing, not to show up. Hopefully I won't make full address again like I did last time.
You're.
It's fine. Good work in the morning.
Have you heard? Yeah. Maryland, you know, have you heard?
You're nowhere near a forum.
I know.
Well, no, here directly, but if we don't, we'll go ahead and listen to our presentations, the people are put together. We just won't be able to take any action.
Right. Good listening.
And maybe Jim and Michelle, so I don't know.
Possible.
It's possible.
Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. No one else has applied or been appointed yet, so.
Well, I had a few inquiries out and they said they would check with John, but I have to do it on.
I've talked to a couple of people too, but
Yeah, up to maybe about 3 people, but 2 said that they would call or email
they're
John.
interested.
So I was like, good.
Very good.
All right.
There's a question.
Well, hello.
How are you? Good, thanks.
Okay. Pardon me? Come on.
Names.
Oh, my name is Liam.
Leon?
Liam.
Oh, Liam,
Yeah,
okay.
L-I-A-M.
Okay.
Yeah,
so-
that works too. Need my last name.
Sure. We'll have it in a minute.
Driver's license.
Okay, thank you. I'm Kathy. Thank you for driving that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So this is so funny. When I plug this thing in and then everything gets small, you know?
There.
Lunch purchase and insurance.
Is that what you want? Okay.
Yes.
Who are these people?
Hi, I'm
Strangers.
Mary Lou. I know, right?
Liam. We're from the planning department.
Oh, from
We're
there.
camping thing that's on.
Oh,
the channel.
oh,
Yeah.
okay, great.
The people show.
Oh, that's right. I remember that now, being on the agenda.
What kind of turnout do you guys usually have?
It depends. There's usually a couple more than this, but we don't have a quorum yet, right? How many do you
No.
need?
4.
You
Oh,
need
yeah.
4?
We have to get Laura.
Probably
What's that?
not gonna have one or.
It doesn't look like it, but we'll go ahead and listen to our presentation. Any input, so.
Where does the cursor go?
Yep, just informational meeting, not decisions or
Yeah.
votes.
We
Yeah.
just won't be able to take any action. Okay, as soon as Lou's ready, we'll call to order.
The owl's awake.
Hmm?
The owl is awake.
Yeah.
Are we recording?
Yeah,
Okay.
we've been recording for like 5 minutes or something, you know?
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. So I'm gonna call this meeting of the Round Valley Area Municipal Advisory Council to order at 6:02 PM. It is June 4th, 2025. Call roll, Dane Downing,
Present.
Mary Lou Millick,
Here,
Kathy Britton. And Laura just called me and she has an emergency, so she won't be here. Charles Sargenti, James Russ, Michelle Downey. So there not being a quorum, we won't be able to conduct any official business or approvals, but we have people who've traveled to present tonight, so I would like to go ahead and let them present to the community. So
Okay.
thank you for coming. So this is Russell Ford and Liam Porter,
Got it.
planning and building, right?
Yes.
Okay.
All right. Yeah, if you'd like us to go ahead, let me share my screen here. I'll send you a request. So my name is Russ Ford. I'm a senior planner with the Planning and Building Services Department. This is one of our staff planners. So we are working on an ordinance amendment that the board would like to see put together, which is going to allow low intensity camping. So basically, all we have is some direction from the board. We have a little bit of an outline from an existing state assembly bill, and we are just kind of looking for feedback on this. So I have a little presentation I'll share. There we go. Okay, low intensity camping inland ordinance update. So the first question is what constitutes inland, which is less of a concern for the Round Valley area than it is for the places along the coast. So the inland area is basically defined by what's outside of the regulatory coastal zone. And there's a couple of maps here that show that coastal zone boundary. So a lot of things that you would probably consider to be coastal are technically inland, and so would, in theory, be affected by this ordinance. One of the things that we're looking for feedback on is if there's a better way to split up that division of permitting. We'll get to that a little bit later. So what is low intensity camping? So some of you may be familiar with it as known as a hip camp, which is similar to like an Airbnb or a Airbnb, except for a campsite. Some of the sites are super rustic, unimproved with just, tent camping or a spot to park an RV. Some are real high end with lots of facilities in what people call glamping, glamour camping with the tent sites and everything. There's a couple of goals that come from the state's assembly bill. Some of the goals for the low intensity camping include expanding outdoor recreational opportunities, fostering rural economic growth through tourism and transient occupancy tax generation, and supporting land conservation by creating economic opportunities for land that is otherwise unimproved or limited. And that's something we can touch back on in a little bit as well. So currently, the Division 1 or zoning ordinance allows for certain camping activities done by the property owner or their guests. And this is kind of an outline of what is currently allowed under the zoning. So in order to do the camping, you have to be within one of these specific zoning districts: rural residential, urban residential, ag, rangeland, timberland. It's only for use by the property owner or their non-paying guests, so you cannot legally rent out a site for camping. There's a maximum of 14 days in any 6-month period. That can be extended to a maximum of 60 days through an administrative permit. It allows a maximum of 10 tents, RVs, trailers, or vehicles in any combination, and a maximum of 30 people. And any RVs and trailers are there cannot be connected to utilities. So this is currently allowed under the zone. So campgrounds and RV parks, what you would consider to be like a commercial campground where you would pay to go and rent a spot, those are currently licensed under the state, the Department of Housing and Community Development, HCD. So here are some regulations of what the state looks at for campgrounds, open space, commercial zones, timberland, forest land, upland residential, or rangeland. Always requires a use permit, a minimum of 10 lots. minimum of 5 acres, and there's development requirements, width and length for each lot, dust-free road, underground utilities, restroom, showers, common areas, etc. So, the state in 2023-24, Senate Bill 620 was introduced, which would allow more of a streamlined permitting option. So right now, the state, it's kind of all or nothing. You can have less than 1 campsite for personal use. 2 or more is considered a full-blown campground. And you have to go through this HCD process with the, minimum 10 sites, and it's generally a lot more than what people are interested in. So Senate Bill 620 was designed to kind of create a middle pathway. That one did ultimately not pass. It didn't make it through the Senate. So this year we have Assembly Bill 518, which is what they're calling the Low Impact Camping Areas Act. That one is currently working its way through the legislature. It's kind of a retooling of Senate Bill 620 with a little bit lighter on the regulation. So none of this is final yet, but based on what's in that Assembly Bill 518, this is kind of what the state is looking at for minimum requirements for any of these low impact campsites. So they're looking at a 2-acre minimum, a maximum density of 1 campsite per acre, a maximum number of 9 campsites per property, regardless of the total number of acres. No on-street parking would be allowed, not permissible within an urban or a suburban area, which is defined in state and federal code and is usually tied to census blocks, census designations. A property manager or operator must be available 24/7, may be rented for no more than 14 consecutive nights per camper or 28 nights per calendar year, 200-foot setbacks to any offsite residents, 30-foot setback to any adjoining property. And then it has to defer to local requirements for fire safety, taxes, sanitation, trash, noise, and then local governments, if they choose to opt into this program, may be more restrictive. So that's kind of where we come in. The board wants the county to develop an ordinance which would opt into this state program to allow people to develop campsites up to 9 campsites on their property. And outside of that, we don't really have any kind of framework. So we've been holding these stakeholder meetings for the last couple of weeks. We've gone to Fort Bragg, we've gone to Boonville. This is our 3rd one. So this was also discussed at the Planning Commission back in November and then the board in February. So some of the comments that came up at those meetings, some of the guidance that they wanted to see us implement were that an on-site manager would be encouraged or required, an actual on-site manager, not just someone that's available. They would like to avoid the ADA requirements if possible. That may not be possible depending on the building code, but it's something that we would consider. We need regulations to mitigate noise and traffic impacts, regulations for impacts related to campfires, considerations for private road easements. The board wanted to see special considerations for properties that were under Williamson Act contracts, where currently camping is not an allowed use. So that's probably going to require an amendment to our policies and procedures for Williamson Act contracts. It's likely that any permitting, any camping would require a discretionary permit. And we need some kind of provision for enforcement. And then, as I mentioned earlier on, separate considerations of the inland versus the coastal areas. So then I have a couple of maps here just kind of for discussion. The map on the left is the existing divisions between Division 1 on the right, which is inland, and Division 2, which is the coastal zone, which, as we talked about, is very limited. The map on the right is just kind of the theoretical map using road sheds. So all the road sheds that lead to Highway 1 that you would consider coastal are in blue, and everything else is inland in the green. So that's something that people have concerns about, because there were, I think the Planning Commission had talked about restricting some of the allowance for the short-term camping areas on the coastal zone, because there are already so many campsites on the coastal zone, and they didn't want to see it. They didn't want to see impacts to that tourism. So that's just there for discussion. Some of the previous meeting comments, we talked to the CAL FIRE fire chiefs. As long as they get notified of the permits, they're on board with it. There's been some comments about how to deal with private road impacts. Folks don't want to see it permitted in residential areas. There's been a lot of discussion of what the minimum lot size is, but generally the agreement is that 2 acres is too small as proposed by the state. Again, enforcement, noise impacts, fire liability insurance, how to deal with septic system if we require portable toilets or composting toilets. Currently under the state Assembly bill, there is no requirement to provide waste or water, because a lot of their sites are RVs, which is all self-contained, so pack it in, pack it out. Folks wanted to see a greater buffer to neighboring residences, require an on-site manager. There was a suggestion on a total number of caps of the campsites. And then what to do about lack of cell service if there's an emergency or people get lost in the middle of the night. Those are just some considerations that we've had. So we're basically here today just to take some input from you all and let us know if you have any questions, and I'll open it up to a discussion. Yes, sir.
So I have two. One is the coastal zone that you're proposing. Are all of the campgrounds and campsites that you're proposing there going to be under coastal zone regulations, even though they're not covered by the coastal commission? Is that, are you sort of going to unify that under coastal regulations? Is that?
No, the way that this will work, because changing the coastal regulations would require a local coastal program
Right.
update, which is somewhat onerous. So any of the regulations on permitting would just affect this ordinance. It would affect the local, the low intensity campsite specifically. So.
Yeah, I guess what I'm saying is that it seems to me, I just looked at some of the coastal zone proposals. They already somewhat prohibit what's proposed here. So the inland part of the coastal zone, would it be harmonized with the coastal zone rules, or would it be its own set of rules? So the coastal commission rules would rule part of it, the county coastal rules would rule another part, and then another part would be ruled by inland. That's.
I see, yeah.
Yeah.
My guess is that it would probably be the second or the third one. Most likely, it would make sense if it was harmonized together with whatever regulations came along for the coastal zone, and we just had two. It's possible it might have a third set of regulations, but it's hard to say at this point.
Can you explain the process? So say a landowner wants to do this, assuming this ordinance gets in place. Is the process, they get a permit to do it, then ideally a business license, and then ideally connected in to where that transient tax is somehow generated from it? Can you walk the process through, please?
Sure, and
What that
that's,
look like?
a lot of that is open for definition. It's likely that it would require a discretionary permit of some kind, and that would either be a use permit, which would be kind of the maximum, or what's called an administrative permit, which is kind of a lower tier, that's a lower barrier to entry on that. So you could require an administrative permit, which would require a public hearing. So your neighbors and everybody would get a chance to voice their concerns. It would have to be approved by the zoning administrator. If it were approved, then the notification would go to the tax collector's office. They would require a business license, and they'd be on the list for TOT, and they'd have to pay that every year.
Okay.
What would be the route? Would there be a route of appeal for that? Like
Sure,
by
yeah.
neighbors and or by the person?
Yeah, so for any discretionary action like that, there's a 10-day appeal period. And if somebody wanted to appeal the decision made by the zoning administrator, it would be appealable to the planning commission. Yes.
I'm wondering, what are they trying to achieve? Are they trying to achieve, like people doing this so that they're working from home to try and make some money with their deal? Or are they doing this to try and house transient people? Or they, I don't understand why. What's driving this?
Sure. And ultimately that's a question for the supervisors. I can't speak for them. I can give you my speculation.
John's here, by the way.
Okay. I guess he can answer that question if you would like.
No, go ahead, Russ, and then I'll follow up.
So we have spoken to the HIP camp folks. They have a government liaison who works with governments that are kind of trying to establish these ordinances. And so one of the things that I mentioned earlier on in the presentation was allowing a pathway for folks to diversify land uses. So particularly down in like the Ukiah Valley, we're seeing the grape market and winery market kind of going in the tank. It's hard for folks that have these wineries for years that are not able to support the property anymore. So they're looking for ways that they can use that property in a different function than has been done previously. And right now, the ag zonings and the rangeland zonings are so restrictive, they can't do that without fully changing the zoning, going through a general plan amendment, losing that ag land, converting it to something else, and we know when that happens, you don't get that ag land back.
Yeah, and you owe taxes,
Yeah,
right, for bringing it.
taxes change, all that would change. It's something that, quite frankly, the department may not support, the general plan wouldn't support. So it's kind of, it's a pretty tough sell for these folks. But something like this, a lot of what HIT Camp sees in other jurisdictions is what they call the agritourism, or, you know, the farm stays, where it's these larger ag operations where people can come and they can camp on the operation, they can do wine tasting or whatever, and it's just another option, more diversification in the land uses, and also another option for TOT, for tourism, right? For people that want to come and experience that kind of farm stay without going to like a big public campground.
Okay, so how is it affected by like this little town who I don't think we have an ambulance service right now? Is that true?
As far as I know, we do.
We do.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
still do.
Yeah.
Yeah, came close, but.
Do we actually have a EMT?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
They're-
okay,
they're
sorry,
ongoing.
my bad. I was worried that would be,
No, but that's a good thing to bring up though,
Yeah.
you know, it's for any of these places.
Mhm.
You know, emergency services for people that don't know how to walk around in the woods.
Yeah, and that's one of the comments that we saw before, you know, a lot of these places, if they're remote, there's no cell service, people arriving late at night, you know, how do you mitigate for those kinds of things? Are we limiting it to places that only have cell service? Are we gonna require that you have some kind of alternate contact method, you know, a landline or some of those considerations?
The comments that I had heard from the Chiefs Association was basically, there are people out there doing it. If DOT is collected, then at least you're getting some revenue coming into the fire districts to offset that gap. Because it doesn't really matter if there's a legal process or not. There are people out there camping, they are doing it. If there is a legal process to collect the taxes based on that then fund the fire department. But the reality is the fire department's going out there and finding those guys whether they get the tax funding or not.
Have you considered something like, at least an advisory on what people should do about issues like this? Like, not requiring it, but suggesting to anybody who does this, that they make sure that they, let people know where they are. You know,
Like,
because
so like a pre-application conference type of thing?
I'm thinking in terms of people who would use these campsites should be given a set of information that allows them to actually know where they are. I
Oh,
mean, a real frequent phenomenon here is I see people wandering around, and my question is, do you know where you are? And the answer is probably no. So I'm just like, if somebody's gonna commercially provide a space for people, you know where you are when you're in downtown San Francisco. I may not, but most people who go there know. A lot of people who come here really don't.
yeah. So you're talking some type like an evacuation plan or some type of
Yeah.
information.
Emergency services information, when you make a reservation, something so that people actually have some idea. Again, I'll say where they are. Here, there are a bunch of cell carriers whose phones don't work here. Even,
Yeah, you have a cell phone, but it
That's
doesn't work.
because I camped at Macaloff Diggins State Park. It's a huge state park. The only caution it says at, between off 49 between Grass Valley and Downeyville, the only caution it says is don't take this dirt road if you don't have a 4-wheel drive vehicle. Which one of the people I was camping with did anyway. No cell phone signal.
Right.
To the point that we literally kind of joke because at the firehouse, there is a sign that it says 911 phone here. And it's like, well, why would you say that? Oh, wait, because stop and think as you're driving past the firehouse that you can call 911 from the firehouse in the middle. And they had little blue dots of evacuation route from all, but it's like, there are areas like that that have seen that.
I'm not suggesting a regulation, I'm just suggesting a heads up to people who do these.
Yeah,
And that's actually something we've seen in other ordinances that we've looked at. They'll actually require that whoever the operator is post certain pieces of information
Okay, great.
on the site or something like that.
Great.
So it's certainly a possibility that could be included.
There seems to
I'm
be a-
neutral on the idea, but I'd like to see it done well if it's done.
Sure. Based on the other meetings that we've had and the feedback that we're getting, there seems to be a pretty strong preference for having these be hosted. So basically having an on-site provider. That would also be kind of a solution to those problems if you have somebody that's within shouting distance, somebody that lives there that has a residence that's gonna have a landline or, some type of phone that works.
I would really rather see something where the Forest Service was supported, where they actually got the campgrounds that we already have out here in order, with potable water. And that, people with real jobs, roads that don't end in a slide.
It closed down because of employment.
Yeah, I mean, they just, every time somebody ages out or has a chance to take a buyout, they're gone. We don't have hardly any, but we have people from the tribe that the tribes could put something together like this and man it, and Forest Service, or maybe what's the Cal thing with kids and stuff, like they just built the thing in Willits, that's a housing deal.
CCC.
Yeah, I mean, that to me seems like the way to add more camping opportunities, rather than, we've got such a broad bunch of landowners or not landowners here that I'm a little bit terrified at the idea of people coming here and just finding that they pull into a place they think they're going to camp, and the next day their car's stripped and there they are.
Well, if I could chime in, that, the question was
Go ahead.
why are we interested in doing this? And it turns out that this is happening throughout Mendocino County right now. People have glamping, they have yurts, they're renting out spaces for people to park their trailers, whatever it is. There's lots of different variations of it. And it's kind of like, how do we regulate that in some way? And like Laurence said, how do we get some TOT, which would go to helping the fire departments? And so it's kind of like, what could
Uh-oh.
We lost your audio, Joe.
You froze. There you are.
The last thing you said is what could.
Yep. Well, it's like the economic development part too, is how do we help people who have a small farm, maybe want to rent out a few spots and keep their farm going, but they can get this other income, diversify their income source too. So we're looking at all those things, and all these concerns you're raising are great points, and they need to be considered, like making sure that there's an on-site home
Oh, I have one of those.
seems very important, and always in touch. People are there. 518, which is just going through the legislature, would give the county the right to, if we say, okay, with less than 9 sites, you can do such and such, and these are the regulations, then the state wouldn't have a say in it. It would be the county's responsibility. So that's kind of what we're looking at, and I appreciate planning and building being up here to get the feedback.
I have one more piece of feedback.
Okay.
This is being brought to us by the same people that manage the marijuana laws and such. That's worked out really well.
No, it's different, Robbie.
Anyone else have a comment, question?
I got a quick question, as far as when you guys do this, you guys say, because we're in rural areas, is being native, you guys do an environmental impact. My other question is, as far as people trespassing, we've had problems with that in the past, and people saying, oh yeah, I can go camp there because it's tribal land. You know, now as you guys bring people in, you say, oh yeah, you can just camp anywhere, who's gonna regulate that? It's happened in the past, you know, as you guys bring this, is there gonna be, I say, a cop or somebody's gonna regulate this, or is Fish and Game gonna regulate this, or how is this gonna be regulated, how's it gonna be paid for?
Yeah, the enforcement is a great question. That's gonna have to be dealt with somewhere in the ordinance, you know, during business hours. The planning and building is code enforcement, but it's likely a lot of the violations or the issues are gonna be after hours. So I don't know if that's gonna be some kind of agreement with the sheriff's office or how that's worked out. We still have to work out those issues. Regarding the environmental issue, depending, there's gonna have to be some kind of environmental document prepared. Depending on the scope of it, you know, that's gonna determine if it's a mitigated neg deck or what level that looks like. And then the trespassing is, so this is gonna be an opt-in thing for the individual property owners, you know, if they want.
Well, I'm just saying, a lot of trouble thing, a lot of property borders, tribal land. So
Yeah.
I'm just saying, as people can't get to certain places, and there's some tribal land is landlocked too. So I mean, as they're saying, you know, you can go and stay here and go hunting, and you can, you know, per se, jump onto the next lot. You know, and as you guys make these rules and regulations, and as far as building and planning department, you know, how's that gonna be made? What's the outcome of, I guess, jurisdiction?
Well, it would only be, it would be permitted through the county, so it would only be areas that where the county had permitting jurisdiction.
Because generally camping areas are done through the state, right? So you guys are trying to get a loophole away from the state and then come to make it a county ordinance, so.
Well, the AB 518 is creating that pathway for counties to do this lower impact permitting without having to go through HCD. So if the Mendocino County wants to opt into that, then yes, it would become the county's authority for only these lower scale, the 9 and under campsites, not the big ones.
So I mean, I think what he's saying, like, makes complete sense. Like some of these, I was thinking in terms of like maximum amounts for various regions, but also each community, each area has different characteristics, and here for sure, but probably almost everywhere in the county, there's an impact on some tribal community of these campsites springing up. And I'm not saying that it's negative, but I'm has anybody gone to the tribes and said, hey, you know, this is what we're considering, what do you want? Has there been you know, and I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, no.
Okay, so it's me again. What if the landowner wants to rent out, and the person who's coming is a hunter, they're bringing firearms, and how does that work if, oh my God, it turns out the landowner had a felony previously? So now you got somebody on your property with a gun, and you know, have you done anything to figure out you can exclude people that had a felony from being able to take part in this?
I don't know how you would do that.
Robbie, I can answer that question.
Come on, Sheriff.
Robbie, the way that works is you have to be personally armed to be in violation of 12021 or the old 1202900 is the new law. You have to be personally armed to be arrested for felon in possession of a firearm. I can pick up a hitchhiker who's a felon, put him in my pickup truck with me, and I have a firearm on my hip. He is not in possession of that firearm. I can't arrest him for it. So you actually have to be in possession of the firearm to be breaking the law. If a hunter goes to a property where somebody is a felon and he has a firearm, that hunter is in possession of the gun.
Okay,
Thank you.
Hey,
thank you,
Is
Sheriff.
there a lean toward,
Hope that makes sense.
I got it.
is the discussions and feedback you've gotten, is it leaning toward requiring an on-site manager instead of the passcode sort of paradigm?
Correct,
like
yeah.
Airbnb or whoever else, yeah.
So under the state regulations for AB 518, if it's passed in this version, this would be the minimum requirement.
And missed it. It's requiring on-site. Oh,
So they're just saying that a property manager or operator must be
Okay.
available 24/7. So it's
Yeah.
the feedback that we're getting is that the residents want to see somebody on site. So the county, in our ordinance, we could make that a stiffer regulation and say you must have somebody on site. Whether you're living there or you have like a caretaker or whatever, there has to be somebody on the same property where this action is taking place.
Okay.
And I would say that was the general consensus from the past meetings we've been to, is that people would like to see that.
I'm gonna ask you a question. Do you see this as enforceable from your office? As you said, almost all violations are gonna happen after hours, and you're not gonna have a staff member after hours. So what is that? I mean, regulations that aren't enforceable, as we know, can turn into some pretty wild, woolly stuff.
Right. Yeah,
So are you looking at that?
yes, the enforcement is absolutely gonna be an aspect of this ordinance. We just don't know what form that's gonna take. I mean, from the administrative side, the department can revoke the admin permit and basically pull the rights for anybody to be licensed through HIT camp and operate the campground. But if they continue operating it, then, you know, there's the code enforcement on one side, and there's law enforcement on the other side.
I suggest that there be something like a 5-year reassessment in the county ordinance. Because, I mean, I can't imagine that you'll get it all right the first time.
Okay. Of the ordinance itself, not the.
Yeah, the ordinance itself, because, you know, nobody's ever done it.
Well, there are other jurisdictions that are
Right.
working on similar.
Right, but I mean, you know, yeah, you get what I mean.
So if you have to have somebody on site, then that means that you probably have to be an employer with an employee.
Or you have to personally live there.
Or owner.
And I think that's what it.
Well, yeah, I mean,
most
if,
cases, yeah.
I mean, because I think about it, like the Lions Club has talked about developing sites at the rodeo grounds. You know, and so if we developed it, that means our caretakers that do a rent trade for caretaking would then be the responsible people for something like this.
so somebody
You know?
that just has property can't do it because they aren't living there.
If that's the way the ordinance takes shape, then yes.
Okay, that's, you know, just things.
And if I can jump in real quick, we probably should have done this at the very beginning, but we have a sign-in sheet if anyone wants to leave their contact info, just if you want to be notified in the future as things go to public hearings and whatnot. Sign up. Pass that around.
Can I ask a question? Of course. So what's the timeline on getting this in place? You know, the steps and when you think it's actually gonna be passed?
That's a tough question to answer. I think it's reasonable that we could have a draft back to the board within 12 months.
Okay.
Because that allows time to complete the stakeholder meetings, work out a draft ordinance, present it to the planning commission for review, and then the semi-final version that would go to the board for an initial reading, and then, you know, any edits or anything that they might like to.
Because there would be no money in the budget for that if it was in the next year. So you can kick that down the road. Code enforcement money, okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
Anything else?
hey, are there any other questions or discussion? Okay,
Well, again, Kathy,
Yes,
just, you know, we're trying to do this because it's already happening and we just are trying to get some regulation around it, right? So I'm sure all of you have seen people camping out there. We're trying to, you know, put in a system or some regulation to it and collect some tax that we could fund fire departments and such too, so.
thank you for that clarification.
All right.
I think you guys are done.
All right.
Thank you for driving out and
so-
presenting.
Yeah, our pleasure. I haven't been up here in a long time, so
Did you like the road?
it's
It's
fantastic.
pretty slick, huh?
When did they do that?
Oh, a couple
Last
months
year.
ago, finished.
Yeah, if we can get that sign-in sheet back, anybody that wants contact of next steps, we'll keep you on the mailing list and we'll let you know. Thank you.
And Robbie and I are gonna ride or
What's that, John?
skateboard down that road one of these days. Robbie and I are gonna skateboard down that road.
I've made it farther down the hill than you, John.
Okay.
You guys are welcome. Okay, so Lorenzi, you're up now. Right?
Where are we at? What time? We're skipping a report.
Yeah, and people should know that there's everything is not connected to the non-agenda items, okay? There's no.
So for everyone,
Minutes, agenda, no agenda.
for everyone who came in after we opened, we do not have a quorum. There's no one member, which those of you who are on council, you have 2 seats and no one's been here for about 3 years. So we'd really like you guys to appoint a couple of people.
Okay, we will.
Hmm?
We will, for sure. Yeah,
So-
right.
Yeah, so you have a seat and a voice at the table.
Okay.
People haven't been coming, so,
Yeah, no, I was wrong.
we're glad you're here. We aren't able to do any business, but we did have these presentations
Okay,
so thank you for coming and, yeah.
okay.
What, do I need to move?
No, I was saying if you want the page.
Me? Sure.
It didn't go this way. I didn't want to miss these.
Oh, sorry.
These guys, if they wanted a chance.
So
to find
what
out.
happens to the rest of the agenda? Nothing? You just.
So yeah, we can't
It's all
take
in-
any action.
Right.
All information.
Yes.
Do we go home or do we just have the same agenda next month?
We'll probably just carry our action over to July.
John,
Yeah,
no quorum. Are we permitted to go through the agenda still, but just not take any action?
no, you really shouldn't have the, meeting
Okay.
if there's not a quorum. Sorry
One,
about
two,
that.
three. Yeah,
So not even on non-agenda items, public comment on non-agenda items?
Well, then you're meeting as a Mac and
yeah.
you can't even open it up really. So,
So we're gonna be doing the same. That's not-
so I guess maybe we could talk about how to make sure we have a quorum. I know Laura had an emergency, but, the Trump.
Tribal council, we
Tribal
gave,
representation.
at the letter that you guys sent to the sheriff, right? Yeah, that's what we're on behalf of, so, I mean, we had no idea about the setting out about. I believe with no contact with us, so I mean, I feel like we was. Backstab, I guess you would say, you guys actually came to us, never had a meeting with us, and a lot of this is not true. So I mean, as the tribal council and as a tribal member and as a community member, this ain't right. At least let us have a say too, you know what I'm saying? I mean, this is big stuff right here that you guys said about us that is not true. So I mean, that's why we came here, I had a meeting, so.
I think as Kathy said, there's 2 council seats that
Yeah,
nobody
we'll
has
fill
been
it,
in.
we'll fill it,
Like,
I'm just saying, we
didn't
didn't know there were 2 seats, but I'm just saying, how can you guys do that about us when we had no say as tribal council? This is our valley at the end of the day, this is where we're from, this is where our bones are, this is where we'll die, this is where we hunted, this is where our ancestors hunted. Not you guys, this is ours. So for you guys to have to say like this, not include us, but the handshake, we're taking man the wrong ways. If we could talk eye to eye and shake a man's hand, it goes a long ways. But when you do this kind of stuff, it makes it worse. Because it gets the community riled up, then we have to hear it as council, then as a community member, we feel it. So I mean, I feel like that we was backstabbed and I think you guys should have came to us before you sent us out. Cause I know Ken's a good friend of mine and the handshake and talk to a man face to face will go a long ways. And this is making it worse. And we did work together. We did all work together. I'm a conservation officer for the tribe. We worked hand in hand together. It was good. But when people can't get it, make a handshake and look a man eye to eye, this is what happens. And this is not true. I'm speaking for the community of the Indian people and the community of non-Indian people, because this is not true.
Is that today's agenda?
Yeah.
Today's agenda, that has not gone out.
No, yeah, this went out. Yeah, I read it. Yeah, I read it.
Well, I mean, I don't even know what letter you're talking about.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, I read it.
So I-
Yeah, we need some clarification.
I can explain something here.
Yeah,
So the agenda that went out for the meeting does have a letter.
yeah, the letter went out, I read it on
It's,
the,
it's a draft letter.
no, I read it on the newsfeed.
Right, I get it. Somebody posted it on the newsfeed. It's a draft letter for discussion of the meeting, except we can't discuss it.
No, I read it on
That was posted.
yeah, it was posted on the newsfeed on what was it?
So,
Yeah, one of those pages, yeah,
On Facebook?
no,
so some background to this is the community has been attending this meeting for probably 8 months with these concerns.
but six
So-
people ain't the community.
Pardon?
6 people ain't the community, you have to get everybody as a community together.
So I agree, and, you know, we've
And
been,
these decisions and discussions, they have a lot to do with all of us, whether we like it or not, we're all here together, so I mean. But at the end of the day, this is where when you guys leave, when you guys find El Cobos, there ain't no more weed here, there ain't no more, you guys leave, everybody leaves, just like Logan, everybody left when Logan was gone. Now we're talking shit, that's bull, because I grew up here in poverty, and kids get in trouble, we're still $2 gun because we're so poor. But now everybody got jobs, there's tribal people, we got jobs, everybody works, not just one family. All families work, everybody has jobs working. As a tribe, our community's come together good. But from what we see and what you guys are saying is weird, it's not true. Because we are living good, we are having fun, we're not, this is, it's bull, so.
So we aren't saying that. That was presented as an item for
No,
discussion.
Bruce, come on, man, I'm just here to speak for the tribe, so. I'm not here to argue, I'm just
So
telling you.
somebody sent me a letter that has that in. That's not bullshit. That's what I knew that letter was gonna maybe be discussed today. Unfortunately, we can't. But
Why is it posted then?
Because it's to be considered. You guys post your tribal agenda, right? It has any.
No, it wasn't on the agenda, it was on a full thing, I read it.
We're talking about.
there's a letter that is pretty strong language about the enforcement of ordinances by Mendocino County, by the state of California, and also by the tribe.
Yeah.
And it was posted as part of the agenda, and again, I'm not discussing it, I'm
I
discussing
read it on that paper.
what?
I'm sure we're way past ground violations.
What feed
Right,
is that?
I'm not trying to discuss the contents of it, this came to be, it was put on the agenda by a community member as an item for discussion. That's all it is. Somebody wrote this and put it on the agenda as something to discuss. And
I read about it yesterday on that paper.
right, because people can take, if I send an email to you, Bob, and you post it on the web, then
No,
everybody.
that's fine, Bruce, I understand that, but we don't have how can you guys even come to this without coming to us and asking
That's
us?
what he's saying. Nobody has come to this. This is one.
Although if we're gonna have discussions like this, obviously you should be included. I think you're right.
Okay, so what do they need to do to
Yeah.
and members
The
on?
council needs to appoint.
Appoint two people.
We will.
So right now, it's Jim Ross and Michelle Downey, but you
Yeah, we
guys
will.
have power to put whoever you want in this, and love it.
Yeah.
They haven't been here in a while.
I mean, in all honesty, correct me if I'm wrong, but if we had two people from the tribe that were on, we'd have a quorum. We could actually have a meeting tonight.
right?
And you could vote it and say, no, we're not doing it.
We get it, everyone's meeting out, but this is one meeting a month.
Yeah, no, it's just that, when I read it, I kind of got upset, I read it it wasn't on Facebook, it was on a feed, so. I mean, we never had no discussion, not anything like that, so how can it even be put out, what I'm saying?
We haven't had any
We don't have
discussion either.
control of
Yeah,
Facebook, but when something comes into the MAC
it
admin,
wasn't Facebook.
then it goes on the agenda. We don't look at it and say, oh, we're not putting that on there. We're a community forum and anyone in the community can bring concerns.
Yeah, that way we all could come together and then we could.
Discussion is good,
Yeah,
and
let
I'm
us-
really glad you guys all came, so,
yeah,
but,
because I read about it, that's why I'm here, I
Yeah.
went, and I was like, oh, how can
but
this
we-
be, we never met, how can, what's this
but we
complication?
do a lot of things here, and there are a lot of things like this fire hydrant project, lots of things that we should be all working together. But if you guys could see a way
The
to,
handshake take man long ways, you know, I believe in that strongly.
that if you could appoint a couple people to, you know, then you have a voice. And, it hasn't been for, I don't know, 3
So when
years.
the next meeting.
Probably-
You can see them.
It's
Probably 3 years since anyone has been at this table. to represent.
I think people have come a couple times and then their schedules got busy. I think I've seen someone that, one or two, I think Jim once.
In the beginning. There was a few times in the middle of COVID that Jim was here and did share vital COVID information, but it's been.
Yeah.
Yeah,
since
Because
then.
this information that is going around in this, if we could, you know, if we could all come together. It's,
And
cause a lot of it's not true, I mean, you know, we know on both sides, it's the tribal and non-tribal, you know what I mean, so I mean, if we could all come together as one, I think we'd be good.
Well, and so there's 7 total seats.
Yeah.
And 2 of which of those are appointed specifically by tribal council. Nobody else can say who those seats are filled by. And then the other 5 are appointed by half staff.
And 2 of those are vacant, so we only have, well, one, I guess. We've got an alternate seat that's vacant, so 4 is a quorum. Laura had an emergency, she couldn't be here today, so. So we can't conduct business, but, you know, it's good to have discussion, and definitely.
Yeah, I mean, we're here forever, you know what I mean,
Yeah,
so
but
we
if
see
you-
people packing up and leaving and it's not worth nothing, well, this is, after everybody let it dry and left, everybody leaves it dry and left. This is where we are forever, you know, this is where our grandfathers, our kids, their kids are gonna be here for forever, you know, so I mean, we don't stand, we're not letting all this happen, it says. You know, we're fighting it at home too, just because we don't come and put it on Facebook and stuff like that, you know, that don't mean we're not doing it, you know what I'm saying, so I mean, that's why we're here.
Well, that's good, I'm glad you're here, and then, if you guys can appoint 2 people.
Yeah,
John,
we
know
will for
we're getting
sure.
sworn in, cause we could really use.
Yeah, we will for
Yeah.
sure, I mean,
We have a lot going on. We meet
Yeah.
one time a month, but we do have stuff on our admin page, like the agendas and minutes and that kind of stuff.
yeah, if you're on the mailing list, in fact, everybody could be on the mailing list, because I'm not a member of the MAC. And I get the monthly agenda, that's how I knew what the contents of the letter were, and I expected there would be some people who would object to it. And I'm glad you guys came, and I'm actually kind of glad that we can't have a meeting. Because this is one, if the discussion gets started wrong,
yeah,
we won't get a right answer. And I think that's happened a few times and stuff we tried to discuss, and I think we got nothing.
and I don't think we would have gotten this far if we had been in here and we've been able to discuss our behalf, you know?
Right,
I mean,
right, because this subject has come up mostly about all the rest of the valley. Over and over again, over about the last it's been last year, because I know there's about this.
Yeah.
but we had some cruel stuff said about us, man, and it hurts our hearts, deep in our bones, because, you know, a lot of it's not true.
Right,
You know, and then for people to say that, I mean, where do we stand? Where do we get a place to stand up and, you know, say our piece, you know?
yeah.
Bob,
Yeah.
I want to tell you that what you're saying, I really like, and what you're saying is the same reason that I show up at the tribal every once in a while. Because I feel the same way about this place.
Yeah.
So it's,
And there's only a handful of us that are gonna be like that, you know? Everybody else is gonna come and leave.
Right.
But this is.
I intend to die here, but not soon.
I know.
So in our agenda, there's always room for a report from
Okay.
tribal council, but we haven't had a report for a long time, so we encourage that. It is one community and we all want to work together.
Yeah.
Is there any formal process for someone being the tribal member here? They have to tell John?
So
who
the
they
tribe
want?
decides
Right.
who they want, then they let John know and he'll send all the paperwork, because it's an official county.
Can they have an alternate too, since there is an alternate in the rest of it? Could
They
there
could
be?
probably use your alternate seat.
I mean, that's, yeah.
Yeah,
That way, if you have
Cass-
3 or whatever. What?
John, what's
The-
up?
Go ahead, John.
They do, we have 2 tribal seats and 1 alternate.
Okay, great.
Kathy, I have a question. To be a member and come from the tribe, do they have to be a registered voter?
I don't believe so.
No.
Is
No,
that,
so it's not like the water board where we have to be a registered voter because
John, do you
you're
have
elected.
an answer to that?
They might have to be a registered voter in Mendocino County to be on the MAC. You know, we haven't had that problem before, but it's a good
But
question.
that's easy, you just go register.
Does that apply to travel? I guess. I don't know. Does it?
Well, if you're an elected official, you have to be a registered voter.
Yeah, this is kind of a special situation.
Well-
See if you can make that not happen.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, because it'd be a lot simpler if,
because people ought to be free to.
It's kind of incongruous with reality, you know? John, can you hear me?
I don't think that is gonna be a problem, honestly.
Yeah, I can hear you.
It shouldn't be a requirement, that's my focus. So is it a requirement for travel members to be registered voters and to be on the ballot?
Well, you know, we've never had that problem before. The people that are who have been nominated by the tribe have just gone through. So I don't know if in the elections office they check that or what, but
it's okay, I'm just trying to stir it up a little bit, John.
yeah.
Can you give us a firm answer on that so that we can let the tribal council know?
Yeah, I can check on that.
A lot better to know before we get. Well, I'm saying we, and I am not even on this board.
Well, what would be better?
If I reach out to Jill and we get all your email addresses, is it okay to put that on so that you guys get all this?
Yeah, that's fine.
So,
Right on.
I'm gonna try to send them to Nikita. I don't know if I got you this one or not. For the week, but I've been said, she's been on council. I try to send it, so at least one person has an idea.
Yeah, that'd be good.
So, but yeah, thanks for coming. You're welcome to stay.
Yeah.
We're gonna have one more presentation on the Town Creek Restoration and Education Project, and then that's all we can't conduct any further business, but
Okay.
we will meet with our next meeting.
Somebody
is
would like to be on the
July
water
2nd.
board,
Yeah,
they do have to be a registered voter.
yeah, we could do all that.
We bumped into that because we had somebody that we thought was gonna.
No, that's fine. Yeah. All righty, that's.
Okay, thank
See you
you.
guys. All right, Matt. Hey, Matt.
So. Now that we lost that.
All right.
Good.
Sorry, that just
I
makes no sense to me whatsoever. I'm just gonna say the voting thing, but.
Town Creek Bioengineering and Education Project is a grant that comes from cannabis funding through CDFW. We recently were awarded this grant through the Water District was awarded this grant. And so.
I want to clarify, cannabis mitigation funding.
Restoration
Funding,
yes.
right.
So this is one of the things that all the tax dollars that they are collecting from legal cannabis farms is going into. So officially it began April 1st. Realistically, we're just really getting going. And it goes for 3 years, so it'll end in March of 28. It's $1.1 million, and we're looking at construction beginning in mid-July, so we'll be having dirt work going on in Town Creek, and then doing the second half of the construction, which will be the planting in mid-September. This is kind of just a short breakdown of the budget. We've got about $150,000 going to project management. Just over $500,000 going into the construction, another $150,000 going into education within the schools, and then almost $225,000 going into community outreach, another $25,000 going into the ongoing maintenance and monitoring for this. The maintenance and monitoring is fairly low because we're looking at having the high schoolers being able to do a lot of that maintenance and monitoring and getting involved in what that looks like in the streams. So kind of three task sections, with construction. So we're looking at recontouring the bed, stage the materials, recontour the bed. That'll happen in July. Install the bioengineering structures. That'll happen, completed in September, because part of that bioengineering includes the planting. And then once those plants are in, install, manage, and remove the sprinkler system will be ongoing for the rest of the project.
Where's the water coming from?
We have a tentative agreement for a landowner. Otherwise, we may look at having to put a tank and truck water, in order to run the irrigation. But tentatively, we have a pond with a landowner that's willing to let us have that. This isn't real great, but it kind of shows, so if you look, this is towards the high school up here. This here is the bridge at Airport Road. And it's been pretty blown out in here. It shifted this last year. So each of these green lines are going to become willow lifts, or as the, they're basically like a gravel burrito, and then we're gonna put a bunch of willows and cottonwoods in there to establish them. This black line along here is a more technical Hoyer lift, and this is where it's the most blown out at, and approaching concern from the water district and the previous project to this, that if it continued in that direction, it could continue through toward the town and reroute as the creeks used to do. And then there's a little bit here on the south side that it started to erode here. And then once you get down here, you can kind of see high school streets here. So the level is quite a bit farther down here. But it really narrows down to a more narrow stream channel. There's just this one spot that's really backed up, and got flattened out. So bringing the grade down and centering that creek to have a more natural creek. So education stuff is very similar to what the prior Town Creek project that the Water District River Recovery Project did. This is actually one of our as Pat would say, classrooms without walls, because we were waiting for somebody on the side of the road, and we said, well, do you know what all the parts of a salmon are? And this was Pat's drawing on the back of my car, along with the anatomy parts of the lamprey up in the corner there. So we're going to continue to do the watershed art projects that we've seen in the Library Commons. They just came down. We'll have, I think we're scheduled for 10 guest lectures in the schools, multiple field trips. They'll be doing, as I mentioned, a lot of the maintenance and monitoring. We'll have 2 creek cleanups a year. And generally speaking, we've kind of looked at the creek as like town and everywhere else, because if it is going to end up in the creek, that's a problem. It needs cleaned up. And then also getting the high school ag classes and cold frames. The idea with the cottonwoods and willows is once they establish and there's some shade there, then we can set the high schoolers up. They can develop some native plugs, grasses, etc., and then put those in later to accelerate the restoration project and keep them involved in it. This is Upper Town Creek. Considerably farther up above, when we were doing a assessment. But community outreach, a lot of going to this kind of meetings. We also will conduct some community workshops. Some of those are on things like road erosion, so how to manage that. Best practices for gardening, so pest management. Again, it's a cannabis grant, but it's looking at what are the positive ecological things that are beneficial here. Also community field trips. In our last grant, we really heard a lot of adults who would like to go out and see some comparisons of stuff. A historical watershed analysis. The water district doesn't have a lot. There's spotty data on what there is and isn't, and so this was an important piece to say, okay, what do we actually know has happened. This will include accounts from the elders. In collecting that and recording it to say, this is, you know, kind of what we do know, so that there is a document that collects that information. And then outreach and materials, attending events like the Blackberry Festival, Indian Days, Earth Day. We'll do some video, and then be able to share that on social media, radio media, etc. And also developing the website so that it's everything that is collected through the historical analysis and the rest of it are available for folks to see. Maintenance and monitoring, that'll look like photo points, drone or aerials, what the survival rate of the willow and cottonwood are, how the changes in riparian are. And so some of that changes in riparian will be looking at, if we see differences in the bugs collected in the streams, if we see more wild, we'll be putting up game cameras to see if we see more wildlife, different types of wildlife, different types of bugs, you know, really a big picture of not just what does the physical stream itself look like, but, you know, what impacts does that have in a whole picture. Also median particle size, D50, we've done several of these with students before, and so this is just looking at is the gravel composition actually large enough that fish could spawn there? They take pretty large, most fish here take pretty larger than you would expect. And then what does the sediment accretion look like in the baffles? So like in the low spots between those gravel burritos, is it accumulating silt and clay and building it up to then create your nice lush riparian corridor there?
So I wanna add a couple of things here
Yeah.
that I think are really important. One is an underlying feature of this whole thing is capacity building within the community. So what we're trying to do is not just we're trying not to employ people from elsewhere, and we're trying to whatever tasks, like the education tasks, even the financial tasks, educate people on how to keep a grant like this going, because there are more of these available, and clearly the creeks throughout the valley can use attention and care. The other thing is, and I just I throw this out all the time, it turns out that bridges always cause backups or wreck the structure of the stream. And there is a way to mitigate that. And I keep saying, we got to get this into the project, but you can, if you create corrugations before the bridge and narrowing at the bridge and corrugations of the channel after the bridge, and still allow a flood channel up on the top, but don't just widen it out under a bridge. You don't get the same, you get different forms depending on the bridge and the angle of the water, but you get buildup of sediment at bridges, and then you get the stream widening out both upstream and downstream because the flow doesn't remain focused at the bridge. And I've looked into some of this on the East Coast. They're doing it. They have different stream structures than what we have here, but it's something that really, if this is going to persist, it's probably going to need to be included under all the bridges in the valley, and it may be a future feature of this. And I'm saying this so that anybody else, if I go away and stop harping on this, people will recognize that this is actually something that keeps us from having to do this over and over again.
And I think it's an important piece too, because that's part of the historical analysis is, I know I've heard accounts of where bridges got widened or narrowed, and that has affected how that stream bed looked. And when I've been out in spots with CDFW, they're like, oh no, that's not having a big wide bridge does not affect that. But yet we have elders who can say, when this bridge was narrower, the gravels did not hold here. They continued to move on and out, and we, as those smaller gravels should. And so I think that's part of that historical analysis, is being able to document it and show it and say, look, this is part of what's been created.
The other thing I would say is, if it's true in Vermont, it's probably true on this end of the continent also.
And I would also add in the capacity building, I did not include Bam on the who to contact list here, but we're excited that he's joining our crew.
Yeah.
So. And thanks for being here.
Question, Lorenzi, on this picture up here, is that like an old dump or is just like?
That picture is actually the attempt, that picture is of, and I'd have to go back and look if that was 2022 or 2023. That is where it was getting blown out right there.
Mhm.
And they were throwing things down into the stream there in a probably ignorant but well-intended, trying to keep something for the water to hit that is not just absolutely blowing out into their field there.
Lou, that's not a dump, that's riparian remediation 40 years ago.
Mhm. Okay.
Well, some of
I
this
was just
think-
wondering, because I heard that there used to be a town dump
Are.
in that
Tires.
area, but I'm not too sure. You know, like it always, like right now, it's the headwaters of Mill Creek, that's where the dump is. You know, I heard it, at one point, it was just right there at Town Creek.
There is a dump site by the airport that's
Right.
listed on the historic documents of the water district.
Mm-hmm.
So the other piece of this is
Upstream of the bridge.
a lot of the stream looks similar in having the old car body parts and tires.
I remember when they did that.
Because
Yeah,
the
me
attempt
too.
was, what do you have? Put a car body in, let the gravel fill the car body up, and that will create the same idea as a boulder or a
And then they
log
ran
or whatever.
cables through old
And
tires.
then they ran cables through
Yeah.
old tires. And so some of this, I think, is remnants of that. Some of this, I think, is more recent, doing the same idea. Throwing what you have in to try to stop
Some of them are beautiful classic cars from the
Yeah.
it.
fifties.
Some of the chrome ones,
Some cool
it's just like,
taillights, yeah.
Emil had some fun, and I being old car nerds, like, ooh, look at this one, when we had to assess the creek a couple of years ago. So,
So are the kids getting credit or payment, or do they get in exchange for their work, the high school?
so the high school, it'll be coordinated as like field trips, it'll be parts of their classes.
So that some sort of like extra, or what is it, what's the word?
Extracurricular. Oh.
Like an elective?
So, probably most of it'll be part of natural resource classes.
No.
And then like when they do the communities, the trash stuff, that would count as community service. So. Yeah.
Well, it looks like-
Thank you.
Can I ask you a question, Dan? What are you thinking of doing? What, you know, career wise, you're in the middle of an education right now, right? What?
Yeah.
What's the degree?
Native environmental science.
Okay, great.
Okay, are
Thank
there
you.
any questions for Lorenzi?
Thanks, I just wanted to like get it out there and introduce it before we're in the middle of the 4th of July and then starting dirt work.
Question,
Yeah,
how's my permit coming?
I checked it, there's nothing in there yet.
Okay, thank you.
Hey,
Okay, I have a statement, or actually something I was hoping to bring to the MAC. And that is, I'm putting a thing together to try and condemn the Sites Reservoir and the tunnel. The big tunnel for being an unnecessary waste of money when what Southern California really needs is a local water source, which would be desalinization. And I've gone back through the stuff that Cal Matters did, and where they talked about the $20 million it's gonna cost, $1 billion, pardon me, to do the tunnel, and 4 point something, anyway, the other money for the Sites Reservoir. And the water that the tunnel would carry per year, or could carry per year, is equal to 9 desal plants like the one in Cardiff. Cardiff? No.
Carlton.
You know, it's just up the road from Carter. Anyway. And the strange thing is that. The water that's gonna, when they put water into Sykes Reservoir, everybody knows what Sykes Reservoir is, okay?
Yeah.
So, Bam, do you know about Sykes Reservoir? Okay, cool. So when they put the water in Sykes Reservoir, and then when they let that water back into the Sacramento River. Because they want to send more water south or whatever, that water's gonna cost $750 an acre foot. Right there, okay? And then they figure, the figures that I got from UC Davis. Say that water being shipped south through the California aqueduct and being pumped over and blah, blah, blah. Costs another $500 or $600 per acre foot. Okay, so these are figures that don't get advertised. As for what Southern California is paying for water, because then the LA Water District is charging $700. So you got 7 and 7 and 5 is, what is that? Maybe it's somebody that's 19. Okay, so the water right now that's coming out of the desal plant in. Not Carter. The one up the road. Anyway, where Legoland is.
That is gonna be.
Yeah,
No, that's going on.
anyway, it's on the ocean.
That doesn't matter.
Anyway, so it's costing $2,000 an acre foot. So it's not much difference, but then here's something that nobody else talks about. And that is that there was this study that was done by UC Davis, says that there's up to and quite often a 50% water loss to evaporation in water that's traveling in the California aqueduct, going to Southern California. So when you take into, account Mount Shasta, or pardon me, Shasta Lake, and from there all the way down, and as far as where do they have the music festival, Coachella, they're gonna ship 20% of the site's water is earmarked already to go to Coachella Valley, which is a joke, because that means that the water is going to be more expensive than water that's made by desalinization. It's been traveled all the way from up here. So anyway, where I'm going with this, I would like to see if the MAC would consider writing a letter of statement against Sykes Reservoir and the tunnel. And I'm gonna put the same thing to the water district.
So
Because,
would you like us to put that on the July agenda to consider? You want to send
Yeah.
us something?
yeah, because I can give you all the stuff. And what's really weird is $2,000 an acre foot is because it's private enterprise making that water. Because in Israel, where they get 100% of their water from desalinization, the water costs about $500 an acre foot. And it's still water. And it's still refined to the same.
It usually takes a letter to arrive here more than the MAC write it, unless there's volunteers around the table.
I'll write you a letter.
Okay, that's the idea.
You'll have to correct the spelling.
Okay, well, thank you for bringing that up, and if you send us something, we'll put an item on the July agenda.
Okay, got it.
Okay, well, thank everyone who,
Can I have?
oh,
one more
go
thing?
ahead, Lou.
On the reports from county, state and tribal officials. I request we add the fire chief,
Did we what?
add the fire protection district, the fire chief. I've talked to him a couple of times. He may only choose to. He doesn't really quite know how to do this, but he sent this to me, which would be, and this is why I made copies. He didn't get it in soon enough to get into the agenda, but it's his monthly report. Because I talked to him, said, you should start doing this. Like
Fire districts.
for the fire, this is
Okay.
what the fire chief has to say. I got a couple more. Anybody wants to know what the fire chief has to say? I mean, but if we put him on the agenda. Or, as a report, then he would have that option. To, if he didn't get his report together until that day, well, then you can show up that,
Yeah.
but it didn't work the last time, but I've been encouraging him to do a little more. Public outreach about what's
I think
going on down the street.
I think that's a good idea.
No, all we need is a quorum.
Yeah, quite the meeting without a meeting.
Okay, well, I'm gonna thank everyone who stuck with us on Zoom,
Next month.
and we'll see you on July 2nd.
Okay,
Question, John?
Thanks, John, thanks for your.
thank you all. Have a good evening.
John, quick question. Any
Yeah.
updates on meeting regarding skate park and the land?
Yeah, and it's the CEO has her staff working on it. And they're looking at the contract and then you and Patricia. So they're still trying to figure out the contract issues.
Okay,
Okay,
thank you.
Okay, we're done.
Bye, John.
Bye.
bye, everyone.
I'll just say it twice. You guys have 2 seats.
Yes.
What was this letter that got him?
Yeah, here.
I didn't see it. I mean,
It's my letter, Robbie.
I saw it on Wednesday. I wasn't sure.
It was me. I did that on purpose to get them here.
You did a good.
Good job.
really?
Yeah.
Oh, shit, it worked. I don't know what it was, but it was.
I've got it pulled up. I'll read it for you.
It did a lot faster than I thought it would. That was really,
Sorry, I had
that
it
was
pulled up.
interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Well, I thought I wouldn't put my letter